Hello, my name's Kalipita Pelava, and in this video I'd like to go over a project that I completed in my last year at Massey University. So the year was split into two phases. We had the research phase and the development phase, with the final outcomes of the year being a one-to-one looks-like model, one-to-one works-like model, a design report, and a final presentation. So this video here is just me going through the slides I used in that presentation. The presentation was 10 minutes, but I've just cut it down to 5 for convenience. So it should be a good overview of the project that I undertook. Framing a better future. This project aimed at addressing the stigma surrounding the use of mobility aids, and more specifically walkers, and even more specifically rollators. So the research went quite in depth, but I'll just gloss over these slides for time's sake. Forecasted elderly population rise, global walker market analysis with a projected rise in growth as well. This here is a map of the current products on the market and the area of opportunity I identified. So obviously the main focus of this project was the stigma behind the use of mobility aids. So a bulk of the research went into the why and the how of that issue, and how I could approach that through design and addressing it. So due to ethics constraints, I was unable to directly consult with elderly. So gathering data from studies such as the one shown on screen here was really helpful in shaping my direction early on. Primary research involved expert interviews, and these are some key quotes I gathered from them. So to conclude the research, we have increasing elderly population, we have a projected walker market growth, with the rollators segment being the biggest projected growth. We have a negative perception on mobility aids, and the aesthetic of the walker is a major factor in improving that perception. And this leads to a design opportunity for an aesthetically pleasing, desirable, and lightweight rollator walker. The research also helped me to define my target user group, and from there I constructed my design criteria. So the criteria is it must be a desirable, sporty design, color customizable, and lightweight. And for function and ergonomics, it must have height adjustable handles, durable wheels, good maneuverability, and seating and storage. Moving on to the design phase, we got early sketches here, sort of looking at how elderly interact with walkers, and then I eventually moved on to my own designs. This led to 3 concept ideas with their respective focuses being electric, lightweight and compactability, and comfort. And of the 3, I chose to go with the second concept as it best aligned with my design criteria. So from here is me just developing on that chosen concept, which began moving towards a 3-wheeled walker design. At this point, I had to decide whether this was the right option moving forward. So I compared the pros and cons, conducted extra research, consulted back to my experts for their opinion on the matter, and confirmed that it did align well with my design criteria. So from here, I developed further on the 3-wheel design and moved on to sketching in CAD, and eventually settled on a design. So once I settled on a design, I could perform an ergonomic analysis, which allowed me to be informed of my dimension constraints. So yeah, looking at the 95th percentile male walking, standing, and seated, as well as the 5th percentile female. I also used these 2 populations to inform my handle dimensions, and from there I was able to derive my dimension constraints for my walker. So moving on to physical models, starting in, I believe that's 1 to 3 scale, and eventually moving on to 1 to 1, and alongside that, defining the form in CAD. So once I had finalized the design, it was just a matter of building the models. So here's pictures of the process of me building the looks like model. So most of the components were 3D printed, and then glued together, sanded, bogged, sanded down again, plenty of sanding, and then eventually painted. Here's an animation of the exploded view of all the 3D printed components for the works like model. And these components were combined with laser cut MDF, as well as aluminium components to make up the model. And here are some renders of the final CAD model. Sweet as, thank you very much. So obviously I didn't satisfy all the criteria I set out at the beginning. Storage, functionality, such as the brakes. But I believe the main goal being focusing on the aesthetic to sort of tackle the negative perception was satisfied quite well. And yes, Pretty proud of how it came out. And once again, thank you very much for watching.